A very warm welcome, our dear viewer. Thank you for accessing this lesson. We are going to discuss Primary 7 content, and we are continuing following our workbooks. Today, we are having our discussion picked from page 46. Page 46 gives us a continuation. Remember, in this topic, we are looking at the economic development of Africa. That is, we are looking at how the different countries in Africa or what is in the different African countries that is able to make them develop, which resources are there. To remind you, before we look at what we are going to be looking at today, we finished to talk about what is in Nigeria as an African country. We looked at what is in Libya as an African country. We looked at what is in Democratic Republic of Congo. We looked at what is in Sudan as a country in Africa. And today, we want to look at what is in Uganda, our very own country. That's why we are saying the economic development of Uganda. In your book, you will find the heading Case Study, which means we are studying Uganda. Case study, Uganda. Meaning we are picking Uganda, we are talking about Uganda. So like we looked at the previous ones, the first thing we are going to have in this is we are going to look at the location of that country. And the country we are talking about is Uganda. We shall look at the location. We shall look at the Colonial Masters. We say this one also contributes to the development of that country. Colonial Masters. In that here we are looking at which country, which people had ruled Uganda. We shall be looking at the neighbors. Which are the neighboring countries to Uganda? We shall look at the climate. Of course, we understood even in the previous ones that the climate determines the type or the economic activities which are carried out in that country. So after climate, we shall connect to the different economic activities. Then we shall also talk about resources, among other things, in the country. This is where our lesson is going to be built on, or this is where we are going to be having it discussed. So to begin our discussion, of course, we need to note that the location, we shall say Uganda, is located on the eastern region of the continent. Uganda is found in the eastern part of the continent that we call Africa. Therefore, next is, who are the colonial masters? We say Uganda was ruled by the British, of which the British came from the country called Britain. So we are having the difference here. British people, Britain, a country which ruled Uganda. Neighbors. Who are the neighbors of our Uganda? So when we look at the neighbors of this country, we shall be able to note that Uganda has got we shall have neighbors of Uganda. This is the country that we are talking about. So, as we can see on the board, Uganda borders the following countries. To the north, here, we shall have South Sudan. South Sudan. To the east, we have Kenya. South of Uganda, this area here, is where we shall have Tanzania. to the southwest. Because when we put our compass here, we shall be able to note that this is the north, this is east, as we have already seen in Kenya this way. This is south. Then between south and west is this we call southwestern direction. This is where we are going to have the country called Rwanda. To the west, we have Democratic Republic of Congo. So how many countries are bordering Uganda? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 countries border Uganda. That one is done. Come to the climate. Uganda experiences mainly the tropical climate. Uganda experiences mainly the tropical climate, which means this is the major climatic region experienced in Uganda. The tropical climate is characterized by 2 seasons mainly, the dry season and the wet season. Remember, in the dry season, there is now harvesting of crops, of ready crops. There will be drying of them and preparing land for again the next wet season. And the wet season is that's now when farmers grow crops. We shall be looking at now crop growing, since we have talked about rain being received. Uganda also receives or experiences what we call equatorial climate. Equatorial climate. This is the type of climate experienced along the equator, which means we pick our ruler and then we draw that line called 0 or marked 0 degrees. This is the line we call equator, 0 degrees. So areas which lie along the equator are the ones which experience this type of climate. You will find this is the type of climate that we described in primary 5 as hot and wet throughout the year. Why hot and wet and how? We say these areas which are crossed by the equator always receive direct sunlight, which means the sun hits these areas, evaporation takes place or transpiration in case there are trees there. Transpiration and evaporation take place, and at the end of it all, clouds are formed and eventually rain comes. That is what we call hot and wet. Hot, the sun hits directly the places, evaporation, transpiration take place, formation of rain takes place, clouds formed, they precipitate, bringing what we call rainfall. So that is what we call hot and wet. This is equatorial climate. Next is we have what we call mountain climate. Mountain climate, we also termed it as montane. This is the climatic region which is experienced around highland areas, around mountainous areas. Then lastly, we shall have Uganda experiencing what we call semi-arid. Remember, unarid is a desert. So we shall have what we call semi-desert climate. We say this is the climatic region which is experienced in the northeastern part of Uganda, that is mainly in Karamoja sub-region. That is where we have districts like Moroto, Abim, Kabong, Kotido, and Kapiripirit. All of them are there in that area. Those districts experience that semi-desert climate. We say the semi-desert climate is the type of climate where little rain is experienced and there is a lot of sunshine. So you'll find such areas are not good for growing of crops. Therefore, mainly we shall be looking at nomadic pastoralism in such areas. People moving with their cattle from one place to another, looking for water and pasture for them. So that is about the climate, of which I've said the climate will lead us to the economic activities, like we have already hinted here. We have said the semi-arid climate now favors nomadic pastoralism. So already an economic activity has come there. We need to understand on page 47 that Uganda is an agricultural country. In primary 5, when we were drawing the coat of arms, we put, there is that part on the landscape. We have the cash crops there. We have cotton and coffee, if you remember, of which we say that those crops symbolize Uganda as an agricultural country. Those are the chief cash crops of Uganda, meaning Uganda is an agricultural country. We also need to remember that it is that economic activity which we term as the backbone of Uganda's economy, agriculture in Uganda. We have understood, I have said, agriculture in Uganda is the backbone of Uganda's economy. Uganda's economy. Which means without it, there is no Uganda. Remember, in agriculture, we are looking at two areas. We have the side of growing crops and then the side of rearing animals, which means Ugandans do that. So, we have farming, that is growing of crops, mainly done in areas that experience a lot of rainfall. Remember, rainfall is good or supports plant growth. It makes the plants to grow well, which means it is the reason as to why those areas are suitable for crop growing. Uganda grows a lot of crops, or we can say a lot of crops are grown in Uganda. Of recent, when we're looking at oil palm growing in Nigeria, we also talked about oil palm growing in Uganda, which means we have already got one crop. However, we say that this oil palm growing in Uganda is only common in Kalangala district. I hope we want that lesson. Now, apart from oil palm growing, we should also be able to note that we have other crops which are grown in Uganda, ranging from food crops and the cash crops. Food crops, we simply say these are crops which are grown for eating, though we should also realize that all of them are cash crops. We say food crops are the ones for eating, then cash crops are the ones for sale. But at the end of it all, we shall also be able to note that even the food crops can also be cash crops. Therefore, we shall term them now under what we call traditional cash crops and then non-traditional cash crops. Those are the ones we call now the food crops. So the non-traditional cash crops, we are saying these are the crops which were originally grown for eating, but today they can also be called, they can also be grown, they can also be sold alongside eating. For example, maize, cassava, sweet potatoes, we have simsim, sorghum, millet, yams, all those crops which we grow to eat can also be sold. We call them non-traditional cash crops. Alongside those, we shall also be looking at the crops which are grown purposely for eating. Most of them are not even, for sale. They are not even eaten. Some of them, or most of them. For example, we shall look at the crops like sisal. We don't eat sisal, which means we grow it to sell. Cotton is there, tea, tobacco, vanilla, pyrethrum, cocoa. All those crops are grown for sale. We call them cash crops, including coffee, if I have not mentioned it. I have already talked about the two, as we have them on that page 47, traditional cash crops and then the non-traditional cash crops. I say we had cash crops, and then we have food crops. Now, what is the difference? We say the cash crops were crops that were grown for sale. Then food crops are the ones which were grown for eating. But today, even the food crops can be sold and they bring cash to us. So for that case, we have the ones which were originally grown for sale. They are the ones we call traditional cash crops. Traditional cash crops. Like I have given you, they are examples. The ones which were originally grown for sale, coffee, tobacco, sisal, we shall have other crops. We have sisal, we shall have pyrethrum, we shall have vanilla, we shall have cotton here, we shall have cocoa, we shall have oil palm, that we say is grown in Kalangala mainly, and other crops that we may not be able all to put here. Then the food crops, we are saying these are crops which were, today we call them traditional, non-traditional cash crops. Which are these crops? These are crops which were originally grown for eating, but we have said today they can also be sold and one gets income. Now, which are these? Which are the examples of these traditional or non-traditional cash crops? We are looking at crops like maize. It was grown for eating, but we can also sell today. We are not saying that they are no longer eaten. No, we have said crops that were originally grown for eating, but can also. When we say can also, it means that alongside eating, they can as well be sold. That is the meaning here. So we say crops that were originally grown for eating, but nowadays can also be sold for income. Cassava, sweet potatoes, sorghum, simsim. We shall have crops. We have talked about. We shall have rice. We shall have crops like Irish potatoes, and there remain all these crops. Groundnuts are there. We can as well add them there. We shall not be able to finish all. So that is what we have on that page 47. Now, when we go to page 48, it gives us the factors that favor crop growing in Uganda. What enables crop growing to take place in our country, Uganda? A number of factors, ranging from the fertility of the soil that we have. Remember, there are some crops that require some certain type of soil. For example, when we talk about coffee, we say on the slopes of mountains we have what we call volcanic fertile soil, which supports the growth of this coffee. That is the one we call Arabica coffee. So we shall need to realize that Uganda has fertile soil. Uganda has the good climate. When we talk about climate, we talk about the aspects like rainfall, which means Uganda experiences a lot of rainfall, which enables crop growing to take place. Then we have availability of land. Uganda has vast land where people can grow crops. Though with the increase in the population, you will find that there is a lot of what we call land fragmentation, dividing the plots that people have into smaller other plots. And then the government supports. You'll find the government always encourages people to grow crops, grow and store. That is what we call food security. So such things make the country to be able to grow crops, because even the government supports this. That is very good. However, much as people are doing that, these people always encounter problems. They meet challenges. So we are now going to look at problems facing Ugandan farmers. Today we are looking at problems facing Ugandan farmers, but it cuts across. Tomorrow when you get a question talking about a problem facing farmers in Kenya, farmers in Tanzania, farmers in Rwanda, you will find these problems are the same. Now, which are these problems? Number one, there are what we call the crop pests and diseases. You find the farmer grows his crops, but the pests come in, destroy. Two, we shall have problems like drought, prolonged sunshine. Sometimes the farmer grows crops and the season changes, the weather changes. You find instead of the rain coming, the sun continues every day. The sun appears, there is no rain, and when it happens for a long time, of course the crops dry up, and there it will be a loss to the farmer. Next is we have natural disasters. These natural disasters include disasters like floods can occur, whereby crops get washed away. If not, we shall have things like disasters like landslides occurring on mountainous areas, and you will find crops get washed away too. And this will make a farmer to register a serious loss. So this becomes a very big challenge. The other one is you will find that sometimes the farmers are not having enough tools for cultivation, lack of proper tools. You'll find people are still relying on simple local tools like hoes. So you'll find that it is not all that taken. Agriculture is not taken the next level of using farm machinery. That is what we call mechanized farming or mechanized agriculture. So it also limits the overproduction or the high yields from being produced by these farmers. So it becomes another burden. Then we have what we call price fluctuation. Price fluctuation, we are looking at the changes in the prices of these commodities. Price fluctuation. Prices are always up and down, and sometimes you'll find that by the time a farmer produces his yields, as the farmer takes these yields to the market, you'll find the prices will have gone too low, and you'll find the farmer just ends up wasting. An example is a farmer producing tomatoes. These are crops which these are produce that you don't have to keep, and you say, maybe let me just take it back home, then I will sell it in the next, maybe in the next 2 months. These are things which need to be produced and spent. Otherwise, they might end up rotting, and you will get a serious loss. So when you see such things, you will find that a farmer ends up just now selling it like that. He gets that little. The price has not been too good. So that one becomes a serious challenge. Then we have a problem of shortage of land. Like I said, there is today also what we call land fragmentation. Land fragmentation, we say, is the division of land into smaller plots. If someone owned a big piece of land, and you'll find as people keep on becoming many, this person is going to divide this land into plots. As people keep on adding, everyone needs a portion, everyone needs a piece, and you will find the other very big piece is now divided into very many other small plots. Not enough. As other people keep on coming, you will find they will keep on, the one who was also owning this, it has again to be cut in the middle so that 2 people can own here. And the same applies. When people keep on increasing, the land is further subdivided into smaller plots. That is what we call land fragmentation. It becomes a very serious problem, which is always brought about by the high population. That is the increase of people in an area. Of course, that is what we call shortage of land. Then the other problem is what we call, sometimes the farmers themselves contribute or bring these problems. That is use of poor farming methods. An example of this, we have what we call over-cultivation. You find a farmer uses a piece of land without allowing it to rest. Season after season, year after year, without allowing it to rest. That will make a farmer, it will make the land become exhausted, and you'll find the farmer will not be able to get enough or too much yields. And this will become a loss to the farmer, a problem to the farmer. And then also we have the government overtaxing these farmers. High taxation by the government also is another problem that these farmers always encounter. Therefore, as a candidate, we should be able to suggest the solutions. And the solutions, I have always told you, we get a solution from the problem. Look at the problem. There is a problem of outbreak of pests and diseases. What should be done? Spraying the pests with the pesticides, and then, of course, also that will help to kill the pests and also those diseases the crops. We have a problem of lack of like poor farming methods. Maybe let us be following this. We have the other problem of price fluctuation. What should be done? That is to maintain or to improve on the prices of goods. And sometimes you will find that this comes as a result of the resource what we call lack of market or shortage of market areas. You will find the farmer has to travel for a long distance to sell his produce. So what should be done also here is setting up other centers, other market areas, such that people can easily access people from the market who can buy their produce. Shortage of land, this can be through encouraging methods that will limit the growth of people. Methods like family planning, such that people do not overproduce. And remember, when people overproduce, it will lead us to this that we call land fragmentation. Everyone produced in future will need to be with a plot, and it brings a challenge. The poor farming methods can be worked upon by farmers being taught or sensitizing farmers. That's what we call educating farmers on the better farming methods. For example, addition of fertilizers to the garden, practicing what we call crop rotation, that is changing crops, and also giving a piece of land time to rest. That is what we call bush fallowing. It is another good farming method that these farmers can be given by the respective or by the concerned officers. Every district, we learned that in primary 3, 4, we have what we call a district agricultural officer. So such people can help those farmers to overcome those other ones. And then we have the problem of high taxation. The government should help or should reduce on the taxes imposed on people, which are charged to the people, such that people can be able to realize at least some profits, and they are able to be given that breathing space. That can be another way of solving or overcoming this. Then we have a problem of shortage of capital. What should be done? Government can as well give soft loans to farmers, give them some money for them to start up their business, their farm activities. Then they can be bringing it, they can be paying it slowly. That's what we call giving soft loans to farmers. That will enable the farmers to get capital so that they can begin these activities, these farm activities. We go to our page 48. It is giving us the same problems and the solutions. This one is repeating. There is a repetition in those pages. 48 is repeating, so we can ignore the first one, and then we go to now 49, whereby 49 is giving us now farming. That is, we have the types of farming there, whereby when it comes to the types of farming, we have got 2 types of farming. That is what we want to look at on that page 49. We have 2 types of farming. We have what we call arable farming. Arable farming. And then we shall also look at what we call livestock farming. Livestock farming, we are looking at the rearing of domestic animals, of course, together with the birds. That is about livestock farming. Whereas arable farming deals with crop growing crops. So we are going to be discussing those. When we come under arable farming, which deals with growing crops, we have the systems there, very many. There is what we call subsistence farming. Subsistence farming, that is growing of crops and rearing of animals, can also be there, mainly for home use. That's what we call home consumption. And the surplus is sold. You will find that this is the type of farming, this is the system of farming which is commonly practiced by most of our farmers in Uganda. And we realize that this type of farming makes farmers, or it keeps the farmers poor. because we have the peasants in this system growing crops on a small scale. Thereby, they only grow the crops to eat, and there is no way they can get enough money from it. So this is what keeps the farmers very poor. It has the advantages. It is very cheap. It requires a small piece of land, and it requires the use of simple tools. Hand hose, we have this hose and the rest. But the advantages we have said, a farmer does not get enough yields to sell, and he gets a lot of money. So a farmer remains poor. We have also what we call plantation farming as the second one to subsistence. Plantation farming, we are looking at, we are done with subsistence. Subsistence farming. We have, next we have is plantation farming. Plantation farming, sometimes we call it estate farming. This is the growing of a single perennial crop on a large scale, and this is done for commercial purposes. For example, you will find a perennial crop. Those are crops that last for seasons in the garden. For example, we have crops like coffee. We have crops like tea. When such crops are in the garden, you will find they are grown, harvested, they remain in the garden, again they bear, they harvest, again the crop remains in the garden like that. Those are the ones we call perennial crops. Sugarcane is another one. You find the sugarcane is planted, then it keeps on bringing others. They harvest as another one is coming to mature, they harvest. Those are the ones we call perennial crops. And when we look at crops like tea, you will find that tea is grown, and that is the system. When they are harvesting the leaves, that is through hand picking, they get and they put on those baskets they are having on their backs. They pick the tea leaves, they put behind. Then after some time, those plants remain in the garden. After some time again, they come again, harvest. They only keep on maintaining like weeding and whatever, and they just keep on. That's what we call a perennial crop. So the growing of one perennial crop on a large, you find it's only one crop. There is nothing like having the other crop and this one, no. If it is a garden of tea, you will see a very big piece of land, a very big area having that tea. If it is cotton, if it's tobacco, you will find the same. If it's like coffee, a big hectare of land having the same crop grown on a large scale. And this is done for commercial purposes. When it comes to the advantages of this type of farming, we shall be able to realize that, one, of course, people get jobs, because weeding such big hectares of land requires a lot of people. Number two, so people get employed there. Number two, these ones will provide raw materials for the industries, like the coffee which is grown can be processed into other products. It also leads to the improvement of infrastructure in that area. And then when it comes to the disadvantages, oh my God, you will find this is too expensive to manage. You will find one has to be with a lot of money for you to first of all acquiring that piece of land, and it requires a lot of labor, a lot of people are needed to work in that farm. Otherwise, you may not manage it. So we have the examples of perennial crops given to us on that page 49. We have crops like sugarcane, coffee, tea, rubber, and we have oil palm. Then we have the examples of plantation farms we have in Uganda. We have Lugazi sugarcane plantation, and then Kakira plantation farm. These are areas whereby sugarcane is grown on a large scale, and this is for to provide sugar. And we have Kasakuti estate also there. We also have another one, that is what we call mixed farming. Mixed farming, we are looking at the growing of crops and rearing of animals on the same piece of land, whereby we have very many advantages. Like you can find that a farmer gets what we call double income. How? A farmer can get the income from the crops grown, can also get the income from the animals sold. A farmer is able to get feeds For his animals, there is now what we call interdependence. The animals can now benefit from the trees, from the crops which are grown. How? They can be given those crops as the feeds, as their food. At the same time, the crops grown can also benefit from the animals. How? They can get the manure from the animal dung, from the cow dung. That is what happens in mixed farming. When it comes to the disadvantages, of course, it requires a large piece of land, remember? And then sometimes you will find that a farmer needs to be with a lot of capital. It requires a lot of labor. It requires, sometimes you will find that there can be a loss in that the animals which are grown, which are kept, can cross and can damage the crops which are grown. So that will become a negative or a disadvantage for this mixed farming. Next, we have what we call irrigation farming. Irrigation farming also comes under arable farming, in that in irrigation farming, we are looking at the extension of water or the artificial supply or the artificial connection of water to a drier area in order to make crop farming possible. Remember, in primary 5 we talked about irrigation farms in Uganda, like the Mobuku irrigation scheme we have in Kasese, we have the Ogom, Kokorio, Kige irrigation scheme, all those we have Tilda. That is another irrigation scheme that we have we shall be looking at these irrigation schemes, but we have, first of all, reasons why irrigation schemes were introduced into Uganda. Number one is to increase on the agricultural output. Number two is to put idle land into profitable land. Remember, we said that's now a place which was hard, which was dry. It was not receiving rainfall. Now it has been made into a cultivable area. And then to diversify agriculture and to settle people who do not have what to do. And finally, to modernize farming. We have a table on page 52 which gives us the examples of the irrigation schemes we have in Africa. Remember, we talked about Gezira irrigation scheme when we are looking at economic development in Sudan. So we have Gezira in Sudan, whose water is got from the Blue Nile, and the crop grown we have is cotton. I want you to get that rice, it's supposed to be cotton. Make it cotton there. We have Richard Toll in Senegal for water from River Senegal and mainly for granules. Awash Valley in Ethiopia from River Wash, rice. Moya Tembera in Kenya. We have Kilombero Valley irrigation scheme in Tanganyika, in Tanzania now. That is for sugarcane. Doho irrigation scheme from River Manafa for rice. Mobuku irrigation scheme from River Mobuku, rice. We have Shabelle irrigation in Somalia from River Shabelle, that is for the bananas. We have Val, that is in South Africa from River Val, which is for groundnuts. And then we have Lake Chad also there that is from Chad, and the crop grown are what we call the palm dates. So that is what we have in line with that. Then when you look at the mining in Uganda, we have, that is page 53. Mining, remember, we define it as the extraction of minerals from where they exist, meaning the getting of minerals from areas where they exist. We shall be able to realize that we have some minerals which are mined in Uganda. That is, we have minerals like gold, we have phosphates, limestone that we say is mined from Tororo for making cement, don't forget this. We have wolfram, graphite, and crude oil. We shall be looking at that. The importance of mining to Uganda as a country are not different from the importance of mining to Nigeria. We say these are the same things. Mining is a source of employment to the people. The government gets revenue through taxing the mining companies. It leads the development of infrastructure in an area. Mining is a source of raw materials. For example, we are looking at things like minerals like limestone. Now, when the limestone is mined, you will find that it can be used to make cement. So limestone, in this case, is a raw material used to make cement. We look at raw materials like phosphates. You'll find phosphates can be used for making artificial fertilizers. So it makes us note that mining is a source of raw materials to these, which can be used to make these other goods. Reasons why Uganda has failed to exploit her mineral wealth. We are looking at what hinders mining, what makes mining not to be effective in Uganda, not to be done well or properly, or on a large scale. Number one, we are saying there is we have low levels of technology in Uganda. Two, we have what we call low levels of skilled labor, meaning that we do not have enough skilled labor that is to exhaust these minerals. And then you will also find that some minerals are existing in small deposits. You'll find if a mineral is, if they are to extract maybe gold in an area, you'll find this gold can be sold at around maybe 1 million. And now when you look at the cost of extraction, you'll find maybe it needs around 5 million shillings to extract it. So at the end of it all, you'll find that it cannot be extracted. At least if it was much, it would make now people to get it out. So that's what we call the low, minerals being in small deposits. Then also we have shortage of capital. That is now the money which is needed to have the mining. Problems faced by the mining industries. One, we have price fluctuation, whereby we talk about the prices of these minerals mined not all that good. Then we talk about lack of enough capital by the mining sectors. Then we have insecurity. Sometimes you'll find if there is insecurity in an area, people cannot be able to go to mine. Innocent people will be running for their lives. And then we have the poor road network and poor technology, as well as low levels of skilled labor. All these ones will bring mining or will bring challenges or hindrances to the mining sector in Uganda. Then lastly, on our page 54, we have what we call the Albertan Region. That is where the crude oil was discovered from. We have a question saying, in which way is oil mining in Lake Albert going to benefit the people of Uganda? Number one, people are going to get jobs. People are going to be employed in those in that mining area. Therefore, they will be able to get the money. Number two, it will lead to the improvement of infrastructure, and we are looking at things like roads to be improved on connecting to that mining area. There is going to be improvement in that, and then people will be able to get minerals from the oil, from this other goods from this mineral which is extracted, which means the mineral which is got can be used as another source of as a raw material which can be used to make other goods. And finally, people will be able to get fuel at a cheaper cost, at a cheaper price. Of course, that one is backing up, or that one comes after Uganda also getting revenue from that, of which revenue can be used to provide people with the social services. We have reasons for the delay. We have lack of capital, low skilled labor, poor technology. Those are things which hinder the mining of crude oil from the Albertan region. However, we also need to note that the mining of this crude oil from the Albertan region also brings a disadvantage to the people, to the locals in that area, which means we are also going to discuss how is crude oil mining going to affect the people of that area negatively. Number one, we need to note that those people are going to be displaced. In other words, they have been displaced. So you'll find that when a mineral is always mined, like I've always told you even in the previous lessons, when a mineral is noticed, or when they get to know that there is a mineral in that area, of course, for them to come and begin mining, people who are living in that area have to be displaced first. So it becomes bad to such people that they will be chased away from their original homelands or their areas where they used to stay, and they will be taken to other areas. That will be a bad side of it to them. Secondly, we shall be able to note that these factories, these industries which are going to be employed or to be fixed there, will be able to work. As they work, this machinery always release the smoke, of which smoke goes to pollute the air that people breathe in, and that will cause what we call air pollution. And also, there will be noise pollution. There will be too much noise coming from these machines as they are working, that is extracting the mineral from where it exists or from underground. So this will become challenges to those people who live in such areas. Our dear candidate and any other viewer watching this lesson, I must thank you so much for being part of it, because we have come to an end and it has ended there. God bless you.